In the constantly changing world of fundability, the big question is this: how are entrepreneurs and real estate investors like us, ones who want to grow our businesses and who are tired of paying for really expensive alternative lending, how do we tap into the most inexpensive money available and do it without the hassle of typical borrowing? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. Welcome to the Get Fundable podcast with your host, Merrill Chandler.
Welcome, everybody. Merrill Chandler here, your host of the Get Fundable podcast. And have I got an episode for you? I've gone off on different service providers for credit reports, credit scores, FICO, but I never really spent a lot of time of distinguishing what credit monitoring services you need to follow, what you can trust, what you can't trust, scores to trust, scores not to trust. So here you go, the truth you trust. When we come back, we'll do a deep dive into some pretty funny experiences I've had with credit monitoring and the things to watch out for. So be sure to follow, rate, and review as soon as we're done with this awesome episode of the Get Fundable podcast. Chandler here, your host to the Get Fundable podcast, your host, the Get Fundable universe. And I'm excited to share with you today kind of a deeper dive into credit monitoring. We've talked about all kinds of things where I've poo-hooed the business practices of Credit Karma and presenting, FICO scores and kind of hiding the fact that no lenders use them, et cetera, et cetera. But I haven't really spent a lot of time on other monitoring programs. And so we're going to kind of spend a little bit of time today focusing on another version of that. And that's why we have the Truth You Trust insignia here, because I want you guys to understand what it means to engage a credit monitoring service, especially if it's showing FICO scores. So the first thing we need to do is tell you a story. Now, the story has like 700 iterations of it, because our fulfillment, our client services company is called CreditSense. And invariably, weekly, we get phone calls to CreditSense or emails to info@CreditSense saying, hey, please stop my credit monitoring service. You're charging me $29.95 a month, and I don't want to pay this anymore. I'm going to turn you into the Better Business Bureau. I've called, I can't get a hold of anybody, and people are throwing a fit, right? And we know, since we don't have a credit monitoring service, we know that someone is thinking about their credit, and they will even read I swear to Buddha, it's crazy. They will read their credit card statement and think that they read CreditSense, and they Google CreditSense, and they end up with our phone number, and they call and complain about us and credit monitoring. We do not have a credit monitoring service. And so we have to email them, call them back, and say, you've got the wrong company. We actually have a relationship with our Better Business Bureau because we've had, over 20 complaints filed against us thinking we're ScoreSense. And of course, it gets cleaned up because we have a flawless Better Business Bureau record, but it's kind of a pain in the butt for us, right? ScoreSense is not CreditSense. Well, in each of these cases, we've actually had people who were so angry at this credit monitoring organization. And by the way, ScoreSense is not alone. That's the point I'm illustrating here. They've been so angry that they've gone to online complaint services and literally just lambasted us. The great thing about our clients, the amazing thing about our clients, is that in every way, we have set up a completely our clients have our back. So somebody went to, I think was Ripoff Report in this case, and we had clients who were like, The Credit Sense is awesome. They are amazing. We love Credit Sense. You're talking about Score Sense. That's not who these guys are. So between the Better Business Bureau having our back for these types of complaints, our clients having our back, we have engendered amazing goodwill about what we do and, of course, what we don't do. Credit monitoring. So in this case, credit monitoring has a notorious reputation for kind of skirting the edges of the truth. That's why we call it the truth you trust. They have a notorious way of presenting information that makes it look like they are legitimate. So I'm going to share my screen right now and kind of give you an example of this is ScoreSense. When you go to ScoreSense, the thing that you're going to find is, notice the language. They say you are more than just one credit score, because everybody talks, especially if you've been to my boot camps, you know that I talk about you have multitude of credit scores, FACO and FICO, but you're more than just one credit score. So we give you all three. Well, what they're talking about is TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. And then notice what they say. See what lenders may see. It doesn't say check the scores your lenders are going to be checking. They say, see what lenders may see. Monthly updates to your 3 credit scores or reports from all 3 credit bureaus show you where you stand. Now, because it's downloaded, the data in ScoreSense and any monitoring service on the planet, they download the legitimate data from Experian, TransUnion, Equifax. But then they apply the fake score. So it seems like in this bottom right-hand box, it seems like they're saying, oh, you get 3 credit scores and reports from all 3 bureaus, as though the report data legitimizes the 3 fake scores. You follow me? We're just doing the math here together, you guys, because it's crazy what they're trying to allude to complete falsehoods and making it look like the truth. Now, this has become so bad that I want to share with you one of the slides that's in the boot camp for those of you who haven't been. So CFPB is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. So CFPB orders TransUnion and Equifax to pay for deceiving consumers in marketing credit scores and credit products, meaning the very things we're talking about. 3 fake scores with legitimate bureau data, right? But then on top of that, what does it say? It says that they are, that these credit reporting, they say that the credit reporting companies, these guys, read carefully, credit reporting companies misstated the cost and the usefulness of the credit scores and products they sold and lured consumers into costly recurring payments, you guys. Costly recurring payments. The whole point of this is that, and ScoreSense is not alone, even though I have the most experience with ScoreSense, because they keep literally calling and complaining about being cheated or being abused or making it too difficult to cancel. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, the vast majority of all credit monitoring services to lure you in, look at that language again, because they were lured consumers into costly recurring payments. What that means is that they were being lured by getting a copy of your credit report and credit score for $1. And that lasts usually 7, some offer 7 days, some offer that $1 value for 14 days. But if you do not cancel, it automatically goes to $19.95 for some, $29.95, $39. I've seen as high as $49 for these monitoring services with fake scores. But if you don't catch it in that week or 14 days, it automatically goes into recurring billings. Now, The problem is that the phone numbers that are provided on the website are either automated and have circular logic so that it doesn't end up and go so you can cancel it easily. It's very difficult for some of these places to even find a place to cancel. So what does that do? That pisses off borrowers who were led to believe that for $1 they could get a legitimate score. What did I just say? They've been led to believe that they can get a legitimate score for $1, and then are angry when these $19, $29, $39, $49 charges keep hitting their accounts. So we have a mess going on in the credit score sellers marketplace. Now, because of these free trials or this $1 trial, it is difficult for unwary, unsophisticated borrowers, especially ones who haven't been to the boot camp. It's very difficult to get those borrowers to understand that they're being conned by the very ads that they're attracted to. Because first belief we have is, I want to check my credit score. And then, like I showed you, some of these ads promote, oh, you don't have one credit score, you have 3, one from each bureau. Get those. And they're like, okay, I want the truth about my financial situation. And then they're sold a fake score. And then the fine print or the disclaimers are so small and down at the very bottom of a complex website that they don't know that they have been sold a whole bag of BS. So, 2 things. 1, are credit monitoring services valuable? Well, in certain circumstances, they can be. If you want to know the truth, you want to go, as you've seen in my boot camp and my previous podcasts, if you want the truth about all your credit scores, all 28 of them, you want to go to myfico.com. That's myfico.com and get a copy of all your scores. It's for $29.95 and monitor it there. If you want to save money because you only want your credit scores when it's time to buy something, only then is a monitoring service even an option for you. So you can get a less expensive monitoring service, but you want to make sure that what they're monitoring is any new inquiries. You want to know immediately when an inquiry is, and you want to be pinged, preferably having a phone app, not just an email notification, so that you know when an inquiry. And if you didn't do it, you now know that you've got a problem brewing. So you want to know that there are what inquiries might be having. If you the best and next best situation is where you can see changes in balances. Did somebody steal your card and run up a charge that isn't yours? You want to know whether or not your balances have changed. If you can get these types of things, including, and you heard it here, I don't mind you using Credit Karma. It's only 2 out of the 3 bureaus. Information that's being scored fakely. I don't mind you using Credit Karma if you're looking for inquiries, changes in balances, or other movements, opening of accounts, things like that on your profile. But you need to know that their scores are worthless to you. So know that you're monitoring for, know what you're monitoring for. Don't trust the scores. The scores are worthless. Okay. The scores are worthless if you are looking for score intel. Now, if you want to use a credit monitoring service that gives you all of those important features of monitoring inquiries, new accounts, changes in balances, etc., but you want to pay a lower price, then look at other credit monitoring services, but don't trust the numbers. Okay? Don't trust the numbers. Now, remember, there's one last thing that we need, because there's FICO scores and FICO scores. But remember, there are also FICO scores that are approval scores, and then there are review scores. So if you go to Experian, you're going to see what's called FICO Score 8. That's the trade brand name of a review score. It's not your auto score. It's not your mortgage score. It's not your bank card score. So it's not going to be used for approvals. But if you're looking for your true whole collection of FICO scores, both review scores and approval scores, that's what MyFICO is for. But if you can but there are other groups out there that you can use. Some of them actually monitor or give you the scores they give you are the FICO review scores. Now that's better than FICO scores, way better than FICO scores. But they're still not the approval scores that are going to be used to approve your mortgages, your automobiles, and your national bank cards. Okay. So this is brilliant, you guys, to know that when I say that I've never said credit monitoring is worthless. I say know what you're monitoring. And if you want scores that you can depend on that are used by lenders, you'll only find those at myfico.com. There are other scores that use MyFICO, FICO Score 8. And if it has that FICO trademark, remember those are review scores. That gives you a general idea, but they're not used by lenders for approvals. And then, and some of those costs are even less money than the FICO. Then if you're looking for just updates on inquiries, your account balances, etc., you can use other monitoring services, but don't. The scores are FICO scores, and they're completely worthless, and we don't want anything to do with them. So, once again, the truth you trust. You heard it here first. There is a massive difference between types of scores. All the bureau data is going to be pretty similar because they're all downloading from the big three: Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. So the data is likely to be identical. The score is the one you can either trust or not trust. This is Merrill Chandler, your host of the Get Fundable universe, the Get Fundable podcast, and it is a delight and a pleasure to spend this time with you. We will see you.
Thank you for listening to the Get Fundable podcast. Please leave comments because Merrill would love to read about your aha moments from this episode. And be sure to visit getfundable.com to read our blog, get important links, join our community, and much, much more, like ordering Merrill's tell-all book that is changing the world, The New F Word. And you got to tell your friends about this podcast because we want them to get fundable too.